There is a line in space you cannot see. Below it, the sky above your head slowly repairs itself. When a satellite dies down there, the thin outer edge of the atmosphere reaches up, drags on it for a few years, and pulls it down to burn away. Above that line, the opposite happens. One collision scatters a cloud of fragments. Those fragments hit other satellites, which shatter into more fragments, which hit still more. And the debris keeps multiplying on its own, even if humanity never launches another rocket again. A NASA scientist named Donald Kessler described this line in 1978. For decades, it stayed a warning about the future. This year, the European Space Agency reported that across several of the busiest orbits, we have quietly crossed it. This is not really a story about space. It is a story about what happens to something we all share, but nobody owns. Except here, there is no undo button. Here's what the report actually says. In 2026, the European Space Agency found that the chance of a collision in low Earth orbit, the band of space from just above the air up to about 2,000 kilometers, rose by 20% in a single year. We can track more than 40,000 objects large enough to see, but most of the danger is far too small to follow. Count the fragments bigger than a centimeter, each already enough to destroy a spacecraft, and the estimate passes 1.2 million. Here is why 1 centimeter is enough. A fleck of debris the size of a marble travels at around 28,000 kilometers an hour, roughly 10 times the speed of a rifle bullet. At that speed, a fragment you could hold between 2 fingers hits with the energy of a small car slamming into a wall. It does not need to be big to be deadly. It only needs to be in the way, and in the most crowded lane of orbit, between 600 and 900 kilometers up, the alerts that 2 objects are about to pass dangerously close now arrive 5 to 10 times as often as they did a decade ago. So what is this line exactly? Think of orbit as having a natural cleaning service. The atmosphere does not stop at a hard edge. A whisper of it reaches hundreds of kilometers up, and it very gently drags on everything passing through. Low down, that drag is strong enough to pull dead satellites back within a few years. Higher up, it is so faint that an object can circle for centuries. Below a certain amount of crowding, this cleaning keeps pace. Things are swept away about as fast as they pile up. Kessler's insight was that above a certain density, that balance flips. Collisions begin generating new fragments faster than the atmosphere can remove the old ones. And every new fragment is itself a bullet that can cause the next collision. The system stops settling down and starts feeding itself. The unsettling part is what that means. Once you are above the line, you do not need to add anything for the problem to keep growing. A study in 2025 estimated that the working and dead satellites already up there, with no new fragments at all, are enough to cross that tipping point across almost every altitude from about 500 to 1,000 kilometers. The worry is no longer the debris we might add in future. The debris already up there is enough to keep the problem growing on its own. Now for the part that explains why we let it get this far. Picture a shared pasture in an old village, open to everyone. If you graze one more cow, you get the full benefit of that cow. The cost, a little less grass for everyone, is spread thin across the whole village, so you barely feel your own share of it. Every herder does the same reasonable sum, and the pasture is stripped bare. Nobody wanted that outcome, yet the design produced it anyway. Orbit is that pasture at the scale of the planet. When you launch a satellite, you get all of its value. The images, the internet signal, the navigation. But the risk you add, one more object that will someday cross paths with someone else's, is spread across every operator who will ever fly through that altitude, so you personally feel almost none of it. And there is a deeper reason nobody steps in to stop it. Under the 1967 Outer Space Treaty, no country is allowed to claim territory in space. That was a wise rule, written so orbit would not be carved up like colonies. But it has a side effect. If no one can own a stretch of orbit, then no one can charge for crowding it, and no market ever sends the signal that a lane is dangerously full. Right now, the price of all that risk is invisibly small. Economists put the expected yearly loss from collisions at around 1/10 of 1% of the value of the satellites up there. So no one hurries. One thing worth saying plainly: this is not the fault of any single company or any one mega-constellation. Many of the most dangerous objects in the crowded lanes are dead rocket stages and defunct satellites from decades ago with no owner left to answer for them. The flaw is in the design itself rather than in any villain. So what would a system look like that didn't do this? 3 designs are on the table, each aimed at a different missing piece: a price, an owner, or a cleanup. And as always, none of them is free. The first tries to give the risk a price. If crowding costs nothing, then the fix is to make it cost something. Charge every operator a fee for each year their satellite occupies an orbit and let that fee climb as the orbit fills. It sounds like just another tax, but the numbers surprise you. In 2020, researchers publishing through the U.S. National Academy of Sciences modeled exactly this and found that a well-designed orbital fee, reaching around $235,000 per satellite a year by 2040, would more than quadruple the long-term value of the whole space industry, from roughly $600 billion to about $3 trillion. The fee grows the industry rather than shrinking it, because it keeps orbit usable, and a usable orbit is worth far more than a ruined one. The catch is that it only works if everyone charges it together. If one country imposes the fee alone, launches simply move to a country that doesn't, an orbital tax haven, and the crowding carries on under a different flag. The second design comes at it from the opposite direction. Instead of taxing the shared space, hand out ownership of it. We have done this before with things that once seemed impossible to divide. The radio spectrum your phone uses was once a chaos of interference until governments split it into licenses and auctioned them off. Overfished seas have been pulled back from collapse by giving fishermen tradable quotas, a fixed catch you are allowed, which you can sell on if you don't use it. In each case, turning a free-for-all into owned, tradable shares gave crowding a price and gave someone a reason to protect the resource. Orbit could work the same way, with a capped number of slots in each lane, owned and traded. The obstacle is that same 1967 treaty. Nations cannot claim space, so any version of this has to be built as a right to use rather than to own, and once again, agreed by the whole world at once. The third design is the most obvious one. If orbit is filling with junk, go up and clean it. This is already starting. The United States now makes satellites remove themselves within 5 years of finishing their mission, down from a loose old guideline of 25, with Britain, France, and Japan converging on the same rule. And Europe is funding the first mission built to grab a dead object and drag it down to burn at a cost of around 100 million euros. All of it helps, but cleanup alone cannot fix the problem and can quietly make it worse. That same 2020 study found that even removing half of all debris every year for free would recover less than a tenth of the value lost to crowding. A cleaner orbit also invites more launches, so the fresh traffic refills the space you just cleared. And the most dangerous objects are the old ownerless ones, the dead rocket stages nobody is responsible for. So someone has to be found to pay for clearing away hardware that has no owner, a bill that tends to land on the public. 3 designs, 1 shared shape, a price, an owner, a cleanup crew. Each targets a different gap. Each carries a real cost, and every one of them only works if the whole world agrees to it at the same time. So go back to the line. It is still there, still invisible, still cutting across the busiest orbits above your head. Nothing dramatic marked the moment we crossed it. No explosion, no headline in the sky, just a slow shift from a place that cleans itself to a place that slowly breaks itself, hidden inside a 20% rise in a technical report. Every design that could help, a fee, a market, a cleanup crew, runs into the same wall. Orbit belongs to everyone, which means it belongs to no one, and the whole world has to agree before any of them can work. We have solved shared problems before, but usually only when the shared fear was vivid and the fix was cheap. Orbit offers neither. The danger is silent and the fix is expensive and slow. So the real question is whether we can act on a threat we cannot see before the cascade decides for us. Because this is the rare kind of mistake that does not wait for us to notice, and it does not come with an undo button.